Order, please. We'll begin the daily routine. Presenting and reading petitions. Presenting reports of committees. Tabling reports, regulations, and other papers. Statements by ministers. Government notices of motion. The Honourable Minister of Tourism, Culture and Heritage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I hereby give notice that on a future day I shall move the adoption of the following resolution. Whereas the Nova Scotia International Tattoo is a reflection of our province's unique cultural heritage, showcasing our military history, music, and community. And whereas the Nova Scotia International Tattoo has entertained audiences for more than 25 years with an exciting, vibrant blend of music and performance by the international lineup of talent. And whereas the Nova Scotia International Tattoo is recognized as the best event of its kind in the world and was granted royal assent by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II on the occasion of her 80th birthday this year. Therefore, be it resolved that all members of this House congratulate the organizers and volunteers of the Royal Nova Scotia International Tattoo, which is running from July 1st to July 8th. I would like to welcome all of the participants and spectators to our province and invite you to discover why so many visitors return to Nova Scotia again and again. Mr. Speaker, I request waiver of notice and passage without debate.
Request for waiver. Is it agreed? All those in favor, please say aye. Contrary, nay. Motion is carried. Introduction of bills. The Honourable Member for Halifax Citadel.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce an act to assist in the retention of doctors in Nova Scotia.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Citadel begs leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Assist in the Retention of Doctors in Nova Scotia.
Bill number 43, an act to assist in the retention of doctors in Nova Scotia.
Ordered that this bill be read for a second time on a future day. The Honourable Member for Cape Breton South.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce a bill, an act to amend Chapter 380 of the Revised Statutes 1989, the Public Utilities Act. Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Cape Breton South begs leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to amend Chapter 380 of the Revised Statutes 1989, the Public Utilities Act.
Bill number 44, an act to amend Chapter 380 of the Revised Statutes 1989, the Public Utilities Act.
Ordered that this bill be read for a second time on a future day. Notices of motion. The Honourable Member for Cole Harbour, Eastern Passage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hereby give notice that on a future day I shall move the adoption of the following resolution. Whereas the heroic efforts of Fred Piercy and Darren Burt averted potential tragedy by rescuing a trio of sisters being overpowered by the strong current at Stony Beach. Whereas the lives of 14-year-old Jennifer Walsh, 11-year-old Barry Colton, and 7-year-old Peyton Colton were surely saved by these brave actions. Whereas Fred Piercy and Darren Burt were honored by the Governor-General's Certificate of Commendation for this rescue. Therefore, be it resolved that the Nova Scotia Legislature commend and honor Eastern Passage residents Fred Piercy and Darren Burt for their heroic rescue of 3 sisters from the strong current at Stony Beach and congratulate them on the receipt of the Governor-General's Certificate of Commendation. Mr. Speaker, I request waiver of notice and passage without debate.
Request for waiver. Is it agreed? All those in favor, please say aye. Contrary, nay. Motion is carried. The Honourable Member for Clare.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I hereby give notice that on a future day I shall move the adoption of the following resolution. Whereas Yarmouth will host the 14th Annual National Old Timers Baseball Tournament August 3rd to 7th, with some games being played in Clare, and whereas 33 baseball teams from across Canada will bring their families to the area for a weekend full of music, lobster boils, hospitality, and good old-fashioned baseball, and whereas events like this will help boost Yarmouth's growing reputation as an outstanding sport and tourism destination, therefore be it resolved that this House wish organizers and teams best of luck with their upcoming national tournament, and congratulations to the Yarmouth and Clare businesses who will see a tremendous boost after several years of declining tourism. And Mr. Speaker, I would ask waiver of notice and passage without debate.
Request for waivers agreed. All those in favor, please say aye. Contrary, nay. Motion is carried. The Honourable Member for Halifax Needham.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I hereby give notice that on a future day I shall move the adoption of the following resolution. Whereas the Clementi course in the humanities, an educational program offered free of charge to those living in poverty, has proven over the past decade to be effective in breaking the cycle of poverty through education. And whereas the St. George's Friends of Clementi Society, led by Chairman Reverend Canon Dr. Gary Thorne and Administrative Director Bruce Russell, has worked diligently and successfully to bring the Clementi course to Halifax. And whereas the first Humanities 101 course was officially launched on Monday, October 17, 2005, the United Nations International Day for the Eradication of Poverty, therefore be it resolved that the Nova Scotia Legislature congratulate Reverend Gary Thorne, Mr. Bruce Russell, and the members of the St. George's Friends of Clementi Society and the 30 students in the Humanities 101 course on this successful initiative to combat poverty through education. And Mr. Speaker, I seek waiver of notice and passage without debate.
Request for waivers. Agreed. All those in favor, please say aye. Contrary, nay. Motion is carried. The honourable member for Preston.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I hereby give notice on a future day I shall move the adoption of the following resolution. Whereas climate change is one of the most significant environmental challenges we as a province need to address sooner rather than later. Whereas the devastating effects of climate change include increased smog, rising sea levels, storm surges, as well as an increase in extreme weather events, including storms, hail, floods, and drought. And whereas the Minister of Environment was questioned on the possibility of creating a Nova Scotia plan to replace the one-ton challenge cancelled by the federal Conservatives, the best he could do was make light of a very serious issue. Therefore, be resolved that the Minister of Environment review his response and seriously consider implementing a Made in Nova Scotia program which was successful in changing human behaviour, a key ingredient in curbing the negative effects of climate change. And I'd ask for waiver and passage without debate.
I hear several noes. The notice is tabled. The honourable member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hereby give notice that on a future day I shall move the adoption of the following resolution. Whereas Grant Miller was selected as this year's winner of the Bill Estabrooks Award at Brookside Junior High School, and whereas Grant daily demonstrated a positive approach to his school this year, and whereas Grant Miller's contribution to Brookside Junior High School is exemplary, therefore be resolved that the Nova Scotia Legislature congratulate Grant Miller as the winner of the Bill Estabrooks Award at Brookside Junior High. Mr. Speaker, I request waiver notice and passage without debate.
Request for waiver. Is it agreed? All those in favor, please say aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion is carried. The honourable member for Halifax-Clayton Park.
Mr. Speaker, I hereby give notice that on a future day I shall move the adoption of the following resolution. Whereas celebrating our sense of community and culture through our many festivals and events is what makes the HRM an exciting place to visit, live, and raise a family. And whereas the 2006 St. Antonio's Lebanese Festival, being held from July 7th to 9th, 2006, will enable all of us an opportunity to savor a taste of Lebanon in the heart of Halifax. And whereas this weekend's festivities promise to be exciting, as participants will enjoy live music, Lebanese folk dancing, exhibits, and Lebanese cuisine. Therefore, be it resolved that all members of the legislature congratulate the countless organizers and volunteers as they embark on this exciting weekend and wish all those involved our best wishes for a successful event. Mr. Speaker, I ask for waiver of notice and passage without debate.
Request for waiver. Is it agreed? All those in favor, please say aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion is carried. The honourable member for Cape Breton Nova.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I hereby give notice that on a future day I shall move the adoption of the following resolution. Whereas 3 Cape Breton school teachers attended a 4-day conference in Jerusalem from June 26-29th, and whereas Lynn Crawford, Kevin Linden, and Diane Lewis have attended the conference entitling Teaching the Holocaust to Future Generations. And whereas the goal of this conference was to address issues pertinent to the Holocaust education and to provide participants with education curricula and activities. Therefore, be resolved the members of the Legislative Assembly acknowledge Lynn Crawford, Kevin Linden, and Diane Lewis for their ongoing efforts in Holocaust education. Mr. Speaker, I request waiver of notice and passage without debate.
Request for waiver. Is it agreed? All those in favor, please say aye. Contrary minded, nay. Motion is carried. Orders of the day, government business, the Honourable Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would resolve that the House resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole House on Supply, and I would ask unanimous consent of the House that the two subcommittees on supply would sit for 7 hours today.
The motion is it a motion or a request?
Well, it's a request for unanimous consent that the House would do
Consent for the House to sit for 7 hours in supply today. Is it agreed?
Agreed. Thank you very much, Mr.
Mike?
Good morning. The Committee on Supply will now be called to order. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Yes, call the estimates of the Minister of Health.
Thank you. The estimates for the Minister of Health. Yesterday, when we adjourned, the honourable member from Glace Bay was on the floor. The honourable member from Glace Bay has 5 minutes remaining this morning. The member from. Okay. We're going to recess for a few minutes until the staff from the Department of Health has arrived. Could you bring me a tea with milk? Good morning. The Committee on Supply will now be called to order for there's 5 minutes left for the honourable member from Glace Bay. Okay. The honourable member from Glace Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to. I know the minister is in a short of his staff right now due to a delay, so I just have a couple of questions to ask the minister, and hopefully he can answer them without the presence of his staff here. And I promise you, we won't continue the private health care versus public health care debate or discussion that we had yesterday, because I'm sure that debate will be continued on in other areas, including the media. Mr. Minister, earlier this year there was a tender that was posted on the Public Tenders website that indicated that the Department of Health, in partnership with the district health authorities and the IWK, would be doing a value for money audit of the DHA's delivery system. And I'm wondering, at that time, if you recall, we asked a question in question period about this very item, and we asked you at that time if the company Corpus Sanchez was the bidder that was selected to do the audit at that time. And I'm wondering now if you could confirm at this time, Mr. Chair, if the minister could confirm whether or not indeed it was Corpus Sanchez that was selected as the company that would be doing the audit.
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and to the member opposite, yes, the successful candidate or the successful bidder was Corpus Sanchez.
The Honourable member for Glace Bay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could the minister tell us then, please, how much Corpus Sanchez is being paid to conduct that audit?
The Honourable the Minister of Health.
You can bear with me, now I'm going to have to find my own stuff here. So, DHAs, we'll go there. No, you can't. Health and billing. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I'm going to have to get back to the honourable member because I can't quote. Oh, there. Bear with me just 1 second here. I'm going to have a funny feeling that the number's not in this document. No, I'll have to get back to him on that number.
Thank you. The honourable member from Glace Bay.
Okay, I understand the minister's at somewhat of a disadvantage right now, going through some books and that without a staff, Mr. Chair. But Corpus Sanchez has been hired before and has conducted audits before, and if you review the recommendations provided by Corpus Sanchez in the past, I'm sure the minister knows of these, but let me tell everyone that if you review these, you'll receive what has happened in the past. At the IWK, for instance, when Corpus Sanchez conducted that review, it was recommended that beds for children with cancer should be closed, and wait lists for children's mental health services should be allowed to grow, and acute care beds should be closed at the QE2 as soon as patients occupying them are moved to nursing homes, and reducing staff hours at the QE2. Those were some of the recommendations in previous Corpus Sanchez audits, Mr. Chair. So I'm just wondering again, and now that the minister has the luxury of having his staff here with him, I'm wondering if he can answer at least one of those questions. How much is this audit, how much is it going to cost? Exactly what's going to be reviewed, and what should we know about this audit that Corpus Sanchez is going to conduct, Mr. Minister?
Thank you. The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and to the member opposite, apparently the Provincial Health Services Operational Review, which is what it is called, and the successful bidder again was Corpus Sanchez, I believe will be somewhere in close to $1 million worth of work. It is about taking a snapshot of time of operations for all the districts. So give us an idea of where provincial monies are going, and basically give us a number of recommendations for us to mull over on how to make our system much more efficient.
Please, the honourable member's time has expired. The chair will now recognize the honourable member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome back to our second day of health estimates. I know where I left off yesterday, Mr. Chairman, was around wait times here in Nova Scotia, and I had went on for a bit of time there trying to, come to a conclusion of some of the problems in the wait time seen in Nova Scotia and why we have them. But I may get back to that in a little bit, but I wanted to first cover one of the things I stated in my opening remarks yesterday. I went through kind of a list of the subjects that I wanted to cover, and one of them that I had stated towards the end was of great concern for the NDP, great concern for many Nova Scotians, and for that matter, Mr. Chairman, great concerns for Canadians. And it was around the new crop of for-profit healthcare facilities that we've seen. And I know the member from Glace Bay had finished off the day with the minister around a discussion on that, but one of the things that really caught my attention yesterday was a comment from the Minister of Health that had stated, I think during questioning, that everything was on the table when it came to healthcare and his department's approach on addressing some of the concerns we see in healthcare. So I want to start off by giving the minister an opportunity to clarify maybe or agree or disagree that your government, Minister, through you, Mr. Chairman, is looking at possibly looking at private health care, and if that is truly on the table for your government.
Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank the member opposite for the question. And to reiterate the discussion of last evening with the honourable member from Glace Bay, the things that we are concerned at in the Department of Health, one that I am personally, that I hold very important in my list of things I need to be as Minister of Health, and the department needs to be. We have to be concerned with, of course, the patient safety, making sure that patients are treated with respect and get the services that they require, number one. Number two, we have a publicly funded system. Under the auspices of the Canadian Health Act, we need to maintain certain regulations and certain processes in order to meet the auspices of that act. Number three, we really have to be not in charge, but at least make sure that we are a part of the design of healthcare in Nova Scotia to ensure that all Nova Scotians receive the correct types of service funded by the public system. Okay? But as we get down to how do we maintain our costs, how do we try to find a way that we're not going to eat up more of the budget than we really have to, we have to look at all options. And that's where the comment yesterday came from in my debate with the member from Glace Bay, is that as we look at different delivery models, because we really have to keep everything on the table at this point, because the things we're doing today are not working to the expectations of Nova Scotians. And I think that's probably where we're at right now. So if there are delivery systems, and I don't know what those delivery systems would be, I think it would be, it wouldn't be the correct thing to do to say no to them so immediately. We need to have a full review of what our options are in order to deliver services to Nova Scotians. So if that means some kind of private delivery, then I think it would be very important to look at those options. And that's where the debate went. And just to make sure that all delivery models are on the table. If we look at our emergency health service system and our contract with EMC, that is a private company that offers ambulance service to Nova Scotians and making sure the service is there. But it is a publicly funded system and a publicly directed system for the safety of all Nova Scotians. So I think that comes down to where we're at. Just we're not throwing anything off the table because I think Nova Scotians would expect us to make sure that they have the safest and the best health system that we possibly can provide for them on taxpayers' dollars.
Thank you. The honourable member for Thykville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate. I guess that was a yes from the minister that everything is on the table, and for-profit healthcare delivery systems are something that if it crosses his desk, he's seriously going to have a look at it. But he mentioned a few different concerns of his, and the first one is patient safety, and I think that's one of the most important things we need to do in healthcare is ensure patient safety. The second was a public system. I would agree that the public system needs to be protected, needs to get the funds and resources from government to ensure that it continues on providing that service for Nova Scotians. And I would agree with the minister when he said that we look at the ambulance service in the province. And yes, we have a private company managing the operations. But I have to point out to the minister, with that system in place, there's a lot of rules and regulations and direction from government. They're there to manage it. The trucks, the equipment, the uniforms are all owned by the government. They have control of that system. And when we look at what we've seen in the province over the last several years in the private healthcare clinics and healthcare facilities, we don't have control. Government does not have control of that. They don't make the rules. They don't tell them what they can do and what they can't do, and what equipment they need and what safety measures are in place. That's what I'm trying to say, is that government is not in control of those facilities opening up in this province, and we're seeing them opening up on a daily basis. And I have to say, I know the minister's new to the post as Minister of Health, but almost a year ago, the former Minister of Health stated publicly that we would see something in the fall that would help control this, that would hopefully give government more control on what we see in the province. But that didn't come, Mr. Chairman. We never seen that. I know the media has asked the minister today again about this issue, and he said we're going to possibly see something coming forward in the fall. Well, Mr. Chairman, we've heard that once before from this government. We're hearing it again from this government. I'll give some credit to the minister being new, but you're still in the same government, and it was something that the former Minister of Health said that was going to be brought forward in the fall of 2005, and we haven't seen anything yet. So I'll ask the Minister of Health through you, Mr. Chairman, are we going to see something in the fall or soon that will give government control of the healthcare system here in Nova Scotia when it comes to private healthcare facilities in Nova Scotia?
Thank you. The Honourable, the Minister of Health.
It requires more work. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And to the member opposite, I do want to remind him of a couple of things. Is that as we talk about a publicly designed and a publicly funded system, there are different delivery models in it that we should look at. That's what this discussion is, and I know we can go on for a really long time talking about this issue, just as this issue has been around for a long time. And every province in Canada has talked about it, some more than others. I've been in this post for 4 months, but quite honestly, we are not the same government. Quite honestly, it was a John Hamm government prior. We are now a Rodney MacDonald government. And I got to say that we need to really look at things differently. And my mandate for my premier is to come up with some innovative ideas, and that's exactly what I want to do to make sure that we protect the health and the safety of all Nova Scotians. To the member, he talks about these private healthcare clinics opening up daily. Mr. Chair, we have 3. We have 3 that are providing different services right now that we are monitoring very, very, very closely. Yes, maybe the correct legislation is not available. But Mr. Chair, I got to say, these are doctors that are they are providing us with of course, non-insured services at this time. So things that the publicly funded system does not provide. Also, these are doctors that are managed or oversought by the College of Physicians and Surgeons. These are professionals as well. So I still want to say that even though we don't have that piece of legislation with them, we want to make sure that the safety of Nova Scotians are protected. When we come forward with a piece of legislation or a piece of regulation for private clinics, I'm sure we'll have a really long debate here in this House. But I do commit to try to bring it in as soon as we can, and I'll do it even before that in consultation with the honourable member and also the honourable member from the Liberals, the member for Glace Bay, and we'll talk about private and see what kind of pieces of legislation need to be put in. And I think with that, I'll continue the discussion with my honourable member.
Thank you. The honourable member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I think that is at the root of why I think I'm here in the NDP caucus, Mr. Chairman, is because our caucus believes that a public-funded healthcare system, not only in our province but across the country, is important to maintain and to fund and to give resources to, Mr. Chairman. And one suggestion that I make to the minister, and I don't know if he has had the opportunity to do this or not, is to go and look at the Romano report. This was one of the largest consultation in healthcare for healthcare in Canadian history, Mr. Chairman. It went right across this country, talking with individuals, talking with professionals, talking with groups, interest groups throughout this province and across the country. And I was fortunate enough to be here in Halifax to take part in some of that, and I know that our profession as paramedics actually made a presentation. A paramedic here in Halifax, Jay Walker, made the presentation to that commission on behalf of the Paramedic Association of Canada. So this consultation was large-based. It entailed many thousands, tens of thousands of individuals, and I hope the minister has a look at that report and looks at the findings and the recommendations from the Romano report, Mr. Chairman, because it defines it clearly that Canadians want to keep and value the public system and to ensure that Medicare continues on so that we don't come to the point where what I have in my wallet determines how well my health care is to me, Mr. Chairman. I took pride and cherished the fact that as a paramedic myself, I was never asked once when I brought a patient to a hospital what they had in their wallet, Mr. Chairman. And I will stand in this House and challenge any government to take that away from Nova Scotians and from Canadians. So I know I could stand at length and debate this and truly, provide a lot of information on why we need to continue on to protect it. The most important thing is we can't let the erosion of our public system to continue, and that truly is what's happening right now, because the governments are not bringing forward stricter guidelines, stricter regulations in Nova Scotia and across the country when it comes to private clinics, Mr. Chairman. So with that, I'll move on to something else. I'm sure the Minister of Health will rather talk about other things than this. But one last comment, which I found interesting that the Minister of Health stated was, that it's not the same government. The comment I made about this is the same government. It's not the same government. It's the Rodney MacDonald government. That's right. Well, what that says to me is that Dr. Ham, who was the Premier for this province for many years, wouldn't allow this to happen. But yet he's saying, and he's stating in the House today, that the Rodney MacDonald government, the Conservative government of today, will look at private healthcare system in this province. And I think that really shows where this province is going. And we'll make sure that we stand up to that, Mr. Speaker. So again, now we definitely will go to something else. One of the other areas that, looking through the estimates, is on page 11.14, is around addiction services. Now, addiction services is very important in our province, Mr. Chairman. We look at alcohol, drugs, and VLT addictions, Mr. Chairman. And when I went through the estimates, I looked under Capital Health Authority, number 9, and if you looked at addiction services, there's a reduction of nearly $2 million for addiction services for the Capital Health District. So I'm wondering if the minister could provide some information of why such a large amount has been reduced for the budget of addiction services for Capital Health.
The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the member Sackville-Cobequid for the question. And the Honourable Member from Glace Bay asked that same question yesterday, and it really revolves around the Choices program, which is being offered through Capital Health, and we felt that since it was an adolescence program, that it would be better served to be with the IWK. So what you're seeing is a transfer of funds from DHA 9, which is the CDHA, to the IWK. You'll see a delete of $1.9 million, but you'll see an increase for the Choices program of 2.6 with the IWK. I do want to go to some of the comments that he did make about the Romano report, and I think I'd be remiss if I didn't touch it just for a second. With the report and the recommendations that were held within it, Romano admits as well that nothing in his recommendations in that report leads to sustainability of the system. They are good recommendations for safety of the patients and those types of things. Yet, there is no real sustainability piece in it. And that's unfortunate, because I do think it's a very good document. It has some very good recommendations into it. Two things that we are taking from that, and there are other things, but mental health, of course, and the increase in funding and the changes that we're trying to do in mental health come directly from the Romano report. Our focus on primary health care comes from the recommendations from the Romano report. So it is something that is still a document that resides on our desk rather than a shelf, and but a lot of the recommendations also hold recommendations that are extremely expensive, and if we're looking at sustainability of a system and they don't lead to a sustainability of the system, it makes it difficult to take those recommendations in. But like I said, it's something that's still on our desks and still things that we're trying to implement from that document.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And definitely I'll be looking through that those numbers for addiction services, because it's an important area. It's been well brought out in the public, especially around VLT use and the addictions to them and the problems in Cape Breton with some of the drugs used there, OxyContin, and now of course the pending possibility that we have meth coming to our province, and from everything I've read over the last little while, stating that this is such a highly addictive drug that we need to look at ensuring that we have the services in place for Nova Scotians who find themselves fighting an addiction, Mr. Chairman, and I think we need to continue to build on what we have and actually grow those services. So now I'm going to jump around to a few different areas. One of them is important because it deals with the safety of our residents when they enter a healthcare facility. And I'm talking around the infection rates that we're seeing for things like MRSA, which is antibiotic-resistant bug or infection, Mr. Speaker. And I remember my first encounter with someone who had MRSA, which is I think methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus auris, I think is the proper name. I haven't said it in a long time. Or VRE, vancomycin-resistant enterococcus, Mr. Speaker. These are MRSA and VRE are very potent infections that can't be fought with antibiotics, and it's very, very hard to keep that under control. And we have many individuals who go into the hospital because of a certain ailment, and then all of a sudden they end up catching one of these superbugs, as they call them, Mr. Chairman. And the numbers of the infection rate has climbed steadily in recent years here in Nova Scotia. And many frontline healthcare workers that I've talked to over the last little while have said that one of the reasons behind this is the chronic vacancy of housekeeping services and other positions in our hospitals that are going left unfilled. Because one of the best ways to combat these infections, MRSA or VRE, is with proper cleaning, Mr. Chairman. So I'm wondering what the minister can say about such a high rate of increase in these infections that we're seeing in our hospitals, and if he knows one of the reasons why this is happening, and if it's true that it's because of some of these vacancies we're seeing in our hospitals around housekeeping and those areas, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and through you to the member opposite. We've got to say that in the last year or so, we have added personnel to Capital District to address some of the housekeeping issues. We're not aware of any vacant positions as they stand today. But I do want to tell you that we are concerned in the department about infection rates, as we should be, and as most jurisdictions are across Canada. And through this year, we have hired within the department an infection control coordinator. That coordinator works with each DHA. Each DHA at this point has an infection control committee to look at these items of infection. The issues of cleanliness and the correct types of cleaners, and it just goes on and on of how to try to mitigate our hospital, mitigate this issue is very important to us. So I can say to the member opposite, I'm very confident that with this process that we'll be able to at least mitigate some of the risks. You can't have it perfect, but at least you can mitigate it as best you can.
Thank you. The Honourable Member from Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's important to recognize there has been cuts to housekeeping services in the past, and I think the government really needs to look at the numbers of individuals we have in our hospitals, in our clinics throughout the province, and ensure that we have a proper number of those individuals to get that control of these infections that we're seeing in our hospitals. So I hope that the minister is committing to ensuring that these rates will go down. I know we can't definitely say that would be the case, but I hope he realizes that he needs to take additional steps. What we're doing right now isn't working well enough, and we got to make sure that we have the resources there to ensure that we can get those rates down, because once you have been in contact and are a carrier for some of these infections, Mr. Chairman, that you're a carrier for life, and it can flare up. You can infect other individuals when you're sick, especially in a hospital setting, Mr. Speaker, and actually other healthcare providers come in contact with those individuals. I know a personal example for myself. When I first learned about these superbugs was after the fact. I picked up an individual, took them to the hospital, and later on we got a call to state that we need to deep clean our vehicle because we were in contact with an individual that had MRSA. And I know there's better programs now that hopefully indicate early on to healthcare providers that you have a high-risk patient or someone who was in contact with MRSA or VRE. So now I'll like to go to branching off that one of the reasons why we have such a long wait times, especially around MRIs, having to receive an MRI especially in Capital Health here. I know that the government has purchased new ones for many of the rural communities, and I understand they will be up and running soon. But we have an aging MRI at the QE2, Mr. Chairman, and definitely this is resulting in an increase in wait times here in the Capital Health region. The business plan calls for a replacement of the machine this year, so I'd like to ask the Minister when that will be done.
The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and to the member opposite in regards to the MRI. The MRIs, of course, we have 2 MRIs in Capital. Those are slated for replacement this year. There are 4 other MRIs going to be going in various places throughout the province, and those will be, I believe, connected throughout the summer, so hopefully in use by fall. Mr. Chair, this process has taken just a little bit longer than we had anticipated, simply for the reason that the manufacturer was changing their models, and we opted to wait a few extra months to get the newest software for those pieces of equipment for the same price. So I'm very happy to say that within the next few months those MRIs will be connected, and hopefully our wait times for MRIs will be substantially cut.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Sackville-Cobequid.
I know the Minister doesn't like to give a date. I know he states quite often this year, or soon, very soon, or in the near future. So can I maybe get a closer date of when this will happen? Will it happen? Will we have this new the replacement for the MRI in Capital Health by the end of September, maybe?
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I can only use Yarmouth as an instance right now. Is that machine is being delivered hopefully within the next few days. And of course, that DHA has been diligent and has the room and facility ready for it. So we're hoping to see that one up and running hopefully by the end of August. The ones in Capital Health, I can commit to end of year. I'm hoping quicker, but as we look at the installation and the time it's going to be required to remove the existing MRIs and reinstall, and plus the training that's going to be required, I will commit to end of year.
Thank you. The Honourable Member from Sackville-Cobequid.
Well, I just want to reassure the Minister that if they're not up by the next session, I'll continue to remind them that this is something that they've announced a long time ago, Mr. Chairman, and we should have the technologists up and trained now. This wasn't something that happened overnight, and so I'm encouraged that most of them should be trained by now. And hopefully when they come online that they can start working the day they are put into the facilities and hooked up. So now I'd like to go to another area that many Nova Scotians are suffering a great deal of pain and time waiting to get in to see a specialist. And of course that's around the pain clinic and the wait times we see with that clinic. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you know any of your constituents, or the Minister of Health knows any of his constituents who have chronic pain and are waiting the services of the pain clinic. But Mr. Chairman, the wait is up to 3 years to get into this facility. This isn't for a minor procedure, or this is to try to cope with someone who's enduring enormous amount of pain in their daily lives, just to function, just to get up, just to walk out of their house. And the waits are 3 years or more, Mr. Chairman. And I know that these wait times are getting worse and worse every day, and that last year I know the DHA's committed money to look at this issue, and now I think they've actually striked a committee up to look at this. So where are the plans and the resources in this budget to lower the wait times for those Nova Scotians who are waiting to get into the pain clinic?
The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and through you to the honourable member. The pain issue has been one that we've been working on for the last number of months. We have a committee of, I believe it's DHA members, chaired by Mr. John Malcolm, who is the current acting CEO for Capital District, and to come to some recommendations to alleviate the wait time for the pain clinic. But not only to relieve the wait time for the pain clinic here, but to come to recommendations to receive pain services throughout the province. And even at this point, we do also have some services in Cape Breton, the Cape Breton district as well. So hopefully we can have a more encompassing program so that patients are able to receive that kind of service. In this budget, to react to the recommendations from the Pain Advisory Committee that is chaired by Mr. Malcolm, we've put in the budget about $700,000 to start addressing those recommendations.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'm a little taken back by the Minister's statement that they've been working on it for months. I mean, this problem's been around for years, and you know, I would have hoped that, and I know he's new to it, so maybe that's how he interpreted the question, that since he's been only in the post for months, he's been working on it for months. But you know, this is an area where we need to look at to see what we can do to relieve some of the pressures and some of the anguish that these Nova Scotians are having in their daily lives. I mean, 3 years is a long time. I know a constituent of mine who just received a letter, and the letter wasn't stating, you know, here's your appointment, come into the pain clinic. The letter stated, are you still willing or still wanting to be seen at the pain clinic? Because it was, I think, well over 3 years, Mr. Chairman. So from what I understand, there was a review done and underway, and I thought it was supposed to be finished or completed last fall. Is that true, Mr. Minister, through the Chair?
The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and through you to the member opposite. The process of the committee was only started last fall, but I also want to inform that we had about $300,000 in the budget last year to work on this issue and to work on recommendations. So quite honestly, at this point, we're at about $1 million in trying to address the pain clinic and the pain services for the province. And I do also want to say that some of these recommendations will be provincially wide, so we're not just going to have a focus on one pain clinic here in the province. Some of the problems we have also has been exacerbated by the lack of anesthesiologists and other people that can offer these services. So it's not only it is very much so a personnel problem, and making sure we have the correct professionals. But there are other doctors in this province that provide similar services, and I think that's what recommendations will start showing, and making sure that people get the service they require.
The Honourable Member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and definitely we'll look forward to reviewing the recommendations and ensuring government acts on them, because far too often we see in this province reviews of programs and departments and recommendations made that just go undone and are left to collect dust. So I think this is an area, when you look at wait times of excess of 3 years at times, that government needs to move on those recommendations to start addressing the concerns of those individuals that are inflicted with chronic pain. So now, as I said, we'll keep moving on to another area that has been something our caucus has been pushing for to increase and expand, and you know, at one point I think we challenged the government on what the steps they were taking to address some of the needs of medical laboratory technologists in the province. and we're definitely facing a critical shortage here in the province. And as technology changes, like the MRIs, the need for upgrading and new technologists increases with that, Mr. Chair. So I know that the new generation of technologists that are being trained in New Brunswick. We have seats allocated for Nova Scotians there, and that is ongoing until 2008, I believe, that agreement. And the first graduates in Nova Scotia from this program won't be completed their studies until 2009. And then hopefully finally that program will be moved back to our province where we should have it, where it should be in-house, so that we can ensure that those individuals that are being trained have a better opportunity to stay and remain in Nova Scotia. Mr. Chairman, when you go away to school and you leave the province and you get your training in another province, even though you're from Nova Scotia, right there, the likelihood of them returning to our province has gone down dramatically, Mr. Chair, and I think we need to ensure that we train Nova Scotians here in the province. We have a great opportunity to do that here with the many schools and technical and colleges that we have here in the province, that there's no reason why we should be sending this out of province. And even with the numbers in the class, I believe there's a total around 24 techs a year that can be graduated through these medical technology, laboratory technologist programs. We're still going to need more when this new crop of graduates graduate, Mr. Chairman. So I'm wondering why the government hasn't looked at more seats, and maybe, and this could tie into economic development and rural economic development. I know the minister is the Minister of Health, but maybe this could tie into even offering satellite programs in some of our rural communities, so that not only are we keeping our students here in the province, but where we need these individuals mostly is some of these rural communities. And if we can take an individual, a resident from a rural community, set up a satellite program so that they could get trained in their community, who knows what will happen. I think the likelihood of them staying in those rural communities grow, because of course as you get older, you start to put ties down and roots into communities that you get trained in and hopefully remain. So my question to the minister is your government, or will your government look at possibly increasing the number of seats, for one, and also the possibility of maybe these satellite schools, so that some of our rural communities can take advantage of having economic growth go to their communities by providing a school, or even, you don't even have to build a school, you can utilize what's there now, but maybe a professor, or even what they've talked about is a lot of telehealth and education is popular. So I wonder if the minister has thought about those two issues, and if we can see maybe some movement on that over the next little while to ensure that we have the proper number of technologists here in the province in the coming years to hopefully sustain the growing changes in technology that we see in healthcare equipment.
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and very happy to stand and talk about our success here. As the member opposite referred to, there is an agreement that we have right now on seats in New Brunswick. At this current time, we are providing bursaries to 22 of these students. This is a type of bursary that they have to come back and work for us for a set amount of time. And I'm very happy to say that the first class graduated this year, and 22 of them, I believe, are being employed in Nova Scotia. So we're very happy to say that this interim step is working to increase the number of medical lab technologists across the province. I also want to say that in the design right now, that until we have a community college across the harbour complete, that's where our new program will reside, where we will have approximately 25 students going through that program every year. So it bodes well to making sure that we have the medical technologies that we require in our system. The other thing that we are looking at to increase the number or increase the service in our labs across the province is also looking at the possibility of a medical lab assistant program, which could be offered across the province. Now, that's something that could be done in a satellite method in conjunction with the medical lab technologist program. So it would be basically not exactly a full technologist, but an assistant that can work within that to take a lot of those tasks and make, of course, our labs much more efficient. So there are a number of things that we're doing. We're very happy, and I congratulate the 22 students that graduated, or 24 students that graduated this year that have received placement in our medical system. Thank you.
Thank you. The honourable member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm encouraged by the numbers that are coming back, but it's nowhere near the number that we need to sustain the development and the ongoing issue of the number of technologists we need here in the province, especially now and in the next few years, Mr. Chairman. So I didn't hear the minister state anything about looking at a the possibility of satellite training for technologists. I did hear about an assistant, which is a first step, but I have to remind the minister that it's not that easy for especially rural residents who are deciding to go to school to pack up and come to Halifax or Dartmouth across the way to go to school. It's very difficult. And that's why I stated the benefits of having these satellite offices is that, or these satellite schools, is that what we're doing, what I said about taking Nova Scotians out of Nova Scotia to be trained in another province, the same thing can be said with individuals wanting to be trained or educated, taking them out of those rural communities. Once they leave those rural communities, come to the city, come to HRM, I would say, and I don't know if the minister would agree with me, I would say they're most likely to want to stay here in the city. We've seen the out-migration, and he said no from across the way, but I don't think he truly believes that, because if you just look at the out-migration of our rural communities, which he represents and you, Mr. Chair, represents, those numbers are stating that that is what is happening. And I think if we could take steps to ensure that individuals, residents, students, young Nova Scotians who want to be trained, who might not have the funds, for one, to come to city. Halifax HRM is becoming more and more expensive to live, to rent an apartment. Everything is incurring or is increasing, Mr. Chairman. So whatever the government can do to ensure that we get the services that you can get here around HRM out to the rural communities, I think would help in rejuvenating, and hopefully, increasing the number of young Nova Scotians staying in rural communities. And so hopefully he understands my point, and that's something as minister he'll take back to staff and look at the possibilities that could be something we could look at down the road. The other question that someone had brought up to me actually was around physicians and the seats we have at Dalhousie, and I know I've talked to many medical students introducing a bill on their behalf to help hopefully ensure that some of them residents, medical residencies and students stay here in the province. One of the things that I heard was how difficult it is and how expensive it is for rural students to come to Halifax and to get involved or get accepted to medical school. They're competing not only with other Nova Scotians, they're competing with other Canadians and people from abroad, from other countries. So one of the questions someone brought out to me, which I said I'd mention to the Minister of Health, would be, has your government ever looked at designating any seats in medical school for medical doctors for rural communities, for individuals who might come from a rural community, to hopefully give them that extra assistance that they may need to take that step into becoming a doctor in this province. And I would hope, I know one medical student I talked to who comes from a rural riding states he's staying here and he's actually going back to rural riding. So I think there's another avenue for government to look at to hopefully ensure that we get those professionals, those physicians here in the province trained, for one, but remain in the province and remain in rural communities. So is that something the minister has ever thought about or would be willing to take back to his department to have a look at to see if that's something that might help rural communities obtain the physicians that they need.
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and to the member opposite. Thank you for bringing up that very important issue of course, the Dalhousie Medical School. And over the last number of years, we've increased the seats there from 82 positions to 90. You know, it's not a big jump, but it is an increase nonetheless. You know, I think as we do it, we're looking at adding, of course, some more residency positions across the province as well, to make sure that as that class graduates and moves on, that they get their residencies here in Nova Scotia, and we you know, have a better chance of retaining those. At this point in our discussions with Dalhousie and the medical school there is no what I would call preference for Nova Scotia students or things of that sort yet. I know there are a number of communities across this province now that are providing help to some of our medical graduates and to our students to try to get them to come back to our areas. And it's something that I've thought about a lot in the last number of months. We have a much better chance of retaining our students if we have a kid from Clare that wants to go. And a matter of fact, I think there are 2 or 3 students right now from Clare that are attending medical school in Sherbrooke. I didn't get any. I didn't pull any strings for that. You know, and right now, those students are expressing interest in maybe coming back to the province, but we have to provide them maybe with a different way of practice, collaborative practice, types of clinics, and those types of things. But that's been a very successful program that we've been able to do, having those 3 seats through Sherbrooke. New Brunswick just recently has announced that they'll be doing some medical school through University of Moncton in conjunction with Sherbrooke, and as well as Dalhousie, I think, is going to be a conjunction with St. John, or so the University of New Brunswick and St. John, with 24, I believe, 20 to 24 seats. So there are a lot of changes happening in the way that physicians are trained in the seats that are available to Atlantic Canadians, and you know. Like I said, I've thought about this a lot of occasions, but we have a much better chance of having physicians in our rural areas if they originally come from those rural areas. So we need to do a lot more to provide them with the opportunity to attend medical school.
Thank you. The honourable member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So now I'll shift gears again and kind of incorporate definitely something that I've brought up many times over the last 3 years in this House, in this chamber, around healthcare, especially around the Cobequid Health region, and what we have been promised, and what we see, and what we have, and what we need. I think definitely I'm proud to represent an area that I believe is the only area that has seen a construction of a new healthcare facility or center. I don't believe there's been any in the recent years, and the residents appreciate the new facility and you know, look forward to using that facility and hopefully using the services that are going to be there. I know the government have announced several areas or several services that will be offered at the new Cobequid Centre. One is the cancer care ability to receive some of your cancer treatment at the facility. To my knowledge, as of today, that unit hasn't been open yet, so I'd like to ask the Minister when he foresees that service being provided at the new Cobequid Centre.
The Honourable the Minister of Health.
That's right. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and just want to just to be sure of where we're going. As you know, that most services that are held within districts are basically under the purview of the DHA, so we have to sort of work in conjunction with them when it comes to services. But very happy that the Bedford-Sackville area has been the receipt of a $34 million facility. I mean, it's and it is quite a facility to behold. I'm very happy that our government was able to provide that to those residents. In so far as the oncology piece and a cancer center, Capital Health has been under process of hiring 3 new oncologists. I believe 2 of them have been offered and hired, and there's 1 offer still outstanding to try to have that. And I do believe at this point they are looking at providing those services once that full complement is up to offer those services at the Cobequid Health Centre.
The honourable member for Sackville-Cobequid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, because I think it's important that that government follows through on the announcements. They take great pride in announcing things very early. The new Cobequid Centre is a prime example, and I don't know how many years it's gone back on how many times they've announced the opening and re-announced it, and now the services that they announced at the time still haven't been, up and running. And I think it's important they realize that, they got to live up to those commitments and get them open, because it's an important issue. Cancer care and treatment of cancer is important to a lot of Nova Scotians. And as a paramedic, I know what it takes out of an individual coming from outside the city into Halifax to receive the treatment and the care of chemotherapy or radiation. And all they want to do is get back home, Mr. Chairman. So I hope that service and the ambulatory care clinic comes online very soon, so that the residents in the Cobequid Health Region, as I said many times in this House, serve well over 100,000 residents, or potentially can serve 100,000 residents, Mr. Chair. I know the Minister has stated several times, especially when I bring it up in question period, about Capital Health and that they're in control of what services and the budget, and I understand that, but ultimately the Minister of Health is put in the position to ensure that the services get delivered to Nova Scotians, and so hopefully he might be able to give me a little more of an answer on the next question around the use of nurse practitioners, especially in the emergency room. Mr. Chairman, we are so underutilizing our nurse practitioners now, and I know that I've read studies that have stated that nurse practitioners can dramatically drop the number of patients requiring to see a doctor enormously, Mr. Speaker. I think one report I read, 80% of the patients that came into a clinic, a nurse practitioner was able to divert to not have to see a physician. So I'd like to ask the Minister, I know he's talked about nurse practitioners and the use of them. When can we see, or are you working at getting nurse practitioners utilized, especially in our emergency rooms? It could benefit not only the Cobequid Centre, but areas in the rural communities that see closures of emergency rooms. So I'm wondering if that's an area you've looked at and talked about and are pushing towards to hopefully have that accomplished.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and to the member opposite, and I very much so appreciate his interest in nurse practitioners and the benefit that they can give the current healthcare system, because I believe it's very important. And I've seen some of these professionals at work, and the service they provide is of course second to none. Which is why I was very happy to introduce in the bill to this House last sitting and again this sitting, which again predefines the expands the scope of the nurse practitioner into what kind of services they can offer. As it stands today, there are 19 nurse practitioner positions in the province. Unfortunately, we have a couple of vacancies that we're still trying to fill to make sure we have the full complement. Each DHA at this point holds it within their business plan to request nurse practitioners. And I can say to you, Mr. Chair, that there are a number of requests to us right now. But of course, due to funding, we have to make sure that they're in the right place, and we're better using our funding. We also have to predefine as well the use of the nurse practitioner in an emergency setting. We want to make sure that they work as collaboratively as possible, and that their roles are very well defined within that emergency setting of who sees what when and what kind of levels and what you're allowed to do, which has been a bit of a challenge. And nurse practitioners, I think they had a bit of a shaky start when the idea was first brought to this province. I mean, nurse practitioners have been around for 20, 30, 40 years or more. The old outports used to have nurse practitioners, that's right. So I mean, it's not a new, but we have to bring online the physicians, and more as we go along here, The physicians are very happy to work with nurse practitioners, and it's kind of funny now that a lot of places, as we set up new clinics, it is definitely the physicians, the doctors that ask to have those nurse practitioners in their practice. So, I'm hopefully in the next number of months as we go along through this budget process, I'll be very happy to announce some more nurse practitioners throughout this province.
Thank you. The honourable member from Sackville-Cobequid has approximately 5 minutes left.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate those comments, but I just want to give one example of how we're not utilizing them to their full potential. I mean, at the Cobequid Centre, for example, we have a nurse that was trained, took the program, trained as a nurse practitioner, and was unable to work to that level of training. And, in my mind, that's just such an underutilization of such an important health professional. And I also request that we need another physician at the Cobequid Centre, which is probably about a $200,000 cost for just one a year. But in the meantime, I think nurse practitioners is a very costly, or not costly, a very feasible way to address some of those concerns. A nurse practitioner, a cost for 1 year, maybe $20,000, Mr. Chairman. So, yes, we need another physician at the Cobequid Centre, but I think we need to seriously look, and I know that the minister stated that he takes directions from the health authorities, but maybe the minister should jump in first and maybe save some money by saying, well, let's get the nurse practitioners there quickly. I know that many of them have done their training through Cobequid Centre, and I would think they'd be well received there, and I think they'd be well received throughout the province when it comes to their ability to work in that setting. To the story of the nurse practitioner at the Cobequid Centre, unfortunately, we're losing her. I know she's taken a job outside the province and probably is gone now, and that's a great loss to the province. And I think the minister should really look at speeding that up and ensuring that Capital Health and other health authorities have a serious look at that, because I think nurse practitioners could be a good way to start addressing some of the wait times that we see in the province. The last, I know I only have a couple more minutes, last issue in health that I want to talk about in my area is, of course, the long-term care facility. I've talked to the minister several times inside this House, outside this House. I know the other ministers have concerns on long-term care facility for the Cobequid Health Region. That area has been recognized as in need for, I think, well over 15 years, if not more. And we were on the verge of having a facility built through Northwood, gaining the contract to build and put in place. And all of a sudden we hear the rumors of a different site selection. I must say the former Minister of Finance from your own government was promoting the area around Rocky Lake. Your past member from Waverley Fall River Beaverbank was promoting Rocky Lake, and all of a sudden now we're hearing of this other alternate decision or alternate site. I have to emphasize the fact that many of the resources that seniors will need and utilize who will reside in a long-term care facility will be available at the Cobequid Centre. And with the Rocky Lake site, the Cobequid Centre is, I believe, less than a kilometre away. And also that's where the advanced care paramedic ambulance is. So that's less than a kilometre away, within minutes of responding. So I encourage the Minister of Health to do what he can and do the right thing for the people, not only of Sackville, but of Bedford, of Fall River, Waverley, Beaverbank. I mean, this area, this long-term care facility is supposed to help the whole region. And if you look at where that proposed site in Rocky Lake is, I mean, it's right next to the 102, where it's quick access to Fall River. It's in the community of Bedford, which is on a road linking Bedford and Sackville. So I hope the minister recognizes the importance. We have seniors who are sitting in malls getting petitions now. I think they're up to about 4,000 signatures to ensure that that's the site that this new facility should go. So with that, I know I only have about 30 seconds, but I think I'm more or less just leaving that to the minister. He knows my feelings on this issue, and I hope that you can commit on the other side, no problem. but I hope that that's resolved in the near future. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And the Northwood site for the Cobequid Health Center area has been one that's concerned me over the last number of months. And the recommendation that is now currently on my desk, and I got to say I was still uncomfortable with it because of the community's request and interest in the issue. And I just want to make sure that before the final selection comes out, as the member opposite knows, there were 9 different sites that were reviewed during this process. It has been brought down to, of course, to the one, and I just want to make sure that that's the right one for the community, as well as the right place to build this facility for Northwood. And I am going to commit something right today, so you write it down. I will have this announced by August 4th. I'm going to look at the staff. They're probably going to freak out there. So there you go. By the 4th, we'll know where it's going.
Thank you. The honourable member from Sackville-Cobequid's time has expired. The chair will now recognize the honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and certainly pleased today to rise and ask a few questions and a little bit of inquiry from the minister and his staff. This is an area, of course, health that is a top priority for, I think, all MLAs here in the House and certainly Nova Scotians. Haven't had the opportunity 2 years ago to do a wait times roundtable across Nova Scotia. It certainly provided me with a number of insights and certainly a good factual base to be able to speak about a number of the topics that have already been referenced here in the House. I do apologize for not having been able to be in the chamber for all of the discussion, so there may be a little bit of redundancy on some of the questions that I do ask, as I also had to sit in on agriculture. The first and primary area that came to my attention as a candidate back in the year 2003, and it's one that certainly has not diminished in this province, maybe one that's not as hot button a topic as it was perhaps in 2003, but certainly one that is ever relevant and ever critical in the delivery of good health and having timely health delivery in Nova Scotia, and that's, of course, around the area of wait times. So I'll have 2 questions here. One, in reference to the QE2, because as the major provincial hospital in our province, what is happening there certainly has that ripple effect right across Nova Scotia. And when I had a tour of the QE2, perhaps it is about 15, 16 months ago, on the day in which I was at the QE2, perhaps there was no striking piece of information that came at our group than the fact that there was about 150 patients who had been in hospital for 3 months or more waiting for placement. And we know the kind of impact that has when those patients cannot be moved out to either the regional hospitals or smaller community hospitals, or obviously to long-term care beds. I'm just wondering what that statistic is today in terms of the number of patients and a baseline for around the 3-month period and beyond that patients have been at the QE2 waiting for placement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and the member opposite, and thank you for taking some time to question the estimates of the Department of Health, and thank you for your interest in it. And I kind of missed your questioning on agriculture because, of course, you know, we had some good conversations over there. You are referencing Unit 4B which is of course over the CDHA. Currently, it ranges between 150 and 180 residents in that area. This year, the new funding in order to do more work to continue the operation of that facility, we are looking at another $745,000.
The honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Minister, for that little synopsis. Certainly, it still remains a startling statistic, and one that certainly impacts, again, on the delivery of, I think, of timely health right across Nova Scotia, that we haven't seemed to be able to make strong headway. The same picture is much in evidence in the Annapolis Valley, in the Annapolis District Health Authority, where we have anywhere from 15 to 20 at any given time that are waiting placement at the Valley Regional. And once again, I'll just ask that basic question about in terms of the planning that is currently going on to make more acute care beds available at the Valley Regional. I'm wondering what the timeline is for an increase in beds at Valley Regional, and what are the expectations when those beds become available for actually reducing some of the wait times in our area.
The Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And just to the previous question from the member in reference to the LCC facility or wing at Capital Health, as we talk about the Sackville-Cobequid a site for the Northwood, of course, that's 150 seats. We're also talking about a joint facility between Community Services and Health, which would be another 150 beds, and of course, those would be more challenging behaviors as well. So there are some initiatives that are going on that hope within a short term will alleviate some of the problems that we're having on actually sending people there, because ultimately I wouldn't, once we're done this construction of beds and continuing along with the continuing care program or strategy, that we will no longer need those kinds of facilities at all. In regards to the acute care beds that are being constructed at the Valley Regional, of course, there was about another $3.9 million in this year's budget for the completion of those beds. My deputy tells me that we should be somewhere in the next 3 months or so before those beds can be occupied. So hopefully sometimes in the early fall we can see the usage of those beds, and of course that opens up a whole bunch of options for Valley Regional when it comes to their orthopedic program and those types of things in order to provide more services to Valley residents.
Member for Kings West.
In regards to the planning for the Valley Regional, and of course, which is the centerpiece of healthcare delivery in Indianapolis Valley, it brings me to, I guess, a more underlying kind of question, and I'd like to hear from the Minister in terms of what is the construct, what is the basis of providing the current amount of funding to the Valley District Health Authority, because I'll come around to another question which I think is perhaps critically relevant to the delivery of health in our region. So I'm just wondering, is it based on the total population it serves? Is it based on the size of Valley Regional, the other facilities that we do have, the number of professionals delivering? What is some of those bases in which the Valley District Health Authority received their funding for a fiscal year? Because I think the kind of service, the timeliness of the service, and the very nature itself is tied into that. So I was just wondering about a little general framework for that, please.
The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and through you to the honourable member. I'm getting really the hang of listening to two conversations at the same time, making sure that we have the correct information as we stand up and answer these questions. When it comes to the funding of our DHAs, in particular the Valley Regional. It is most definitely service-based, the types of services that are being offered in each facility and each area. The business plan and the programs that are proposed and continued within those business plans, as well as the historical pieces of how the funding has happened over the last number of years. Mr. Chair, we have committed and continue to commit an increase of 7% to those DHAs for the near term, so they can have the best planning possible. The challenge has been in the past for every DHA is to make sure that they can plan on a yearly basis, because a lot of these programs are over 3-4 years, so they continue. So it's very difficult when you don't know your budget from one year to the other. So we have committed that their budgets would be the same, plus 7%, in order to the continuation expansion of some of those programs. Mr. Chair, also, as the member for Glace Bay had mentioned during his questioning, he had asked about the facilities review and basically working in each DHA to do a snapshot in time of operations of a DHA, so that we have a clearer picture of where Nova Scotia taxpayers' money is going and how they're being transferred into services, so that we can make better assessment of those business plans and give more evidence, of course, to the DHAs when they come and ask for funding from us. And I got to say, as well, for my visits with the DHA in the Valley, they do a phenomenal job, and again, to the point, I congratulate all DHAs to come so close to their budget target, being within 1/20th of 1% of their target for this year. So I think things bode well on having even ground, and I look forward to some of the new services and the expansion at Valley Regional.
Thank you. The honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Minister, and certainly pleased to hear that there are now, annual increases, because one of the areas that I'm not sure is being taken account of to the extent that it should, and I feel the Valley District Health Authority and our area is certainly already at the very beginning stage of what we're going to see across Nova Scotia when we talk about an aging population. Within the Valley District Health Authority, we include, of course, Digby. We have 3 communities now that have a population where 25% is 65 years of age and over, and we have 8 communities in Nova Scotia where 20% of their population is 65 and over. And Indianapolis Valley, we have 5 of those communities. So the aging strategy piece has pointed out some directions that we need to be going, and I'm wondering if the Department of Health has that kind of now long-term planning that is going to allow for the other critical pieces, the long-term care beds, continuing care, home care. What are some of the pieces of the plan that will enable the District Health Authority, the Indianapolis District Health Authority, to deal with what I see as the beginnings of a very significant, a very large seniors population. I certainly see signs, in my community and in my riding, where certainly some of the seniors' issues are not getting the kind of attention in the healthcare system that we need to be delivering. While we do have one outstanding facility in the Grandview Manor, there's still many other services that our seniors can be receiving in terms of health care. So I would just like kind of, again, a little bit of an overview of where the plan is certainly going to be looking after the geriatric patient and certainly the long-term care requirements that we do have.
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and through you to the member opposite. When it comes to the Annapolis Valley, I think we've been very cognizant that is, of course, an underserviced area when it comes to the availability of long-term care beds. As a matter of fact, when we did our review, of course, we look at trend analysis, look at the demographics of the area, and basically make the calculation of 10 beds per people over 75. That pretty much access a bed because of varying reasons. As we looked at across the province, in order to come up to a calculation of the 826 beds or so, because of course, as needs are presented to us, as proposals are brought to us, that number may flux a little bit. But ultimately, the Annapolis Valley would be receiving well in excess over 150 beds. Throughout that calculation. And I know the member for Digby Annapolis has been, or the member for Annapolis has been asking quite honestly for services in his riding, of course, for Middleton, and I know that would be about a 40. So, as we make those calculations of a true distribution across the valley, I think we're looking in that 150 or more beds for the area. And I look forward to getting some requests for proposals out there and seeing which communities would be willing to have that kind of facility. And ultimately, at this point, we haven't had a true discussion on what kind of facilities we're looking for, whether it's expansion or new or that, and that information and that kind of counsel can come from members just like you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Kings West.
I guess many of the topics that I'll cover this morning are definitely integrated into the whole medical delivery. One of the areas that I still hear some local concerns about. I know I just heard recently, of course, at the facility in Berwick, the health center in Berwick. Which has blood collection services, and of course they went to a new electronic means of gathering the information and putting it into a system that would be available long term, and it brings up the whole area that I certainly have had some wonderment about. It was raised a number of times when we went around the province a couple of years ago. And perhaps you've already may have had some address of this particular issue in the earlier part of the estimates, but it's around our electronic medical record system. And I guess the larger kind of global question here is that at the end of the day, are we going to end up with a fully integrated system? I know it's been very, very costly. I know there have been certainly a number of delays, and I know that there is still duplication that is going on. And I would just like to have an update as to where we are with the implementation and what is the timeline. And since we are doing budget estimates, what does that cost Nova Scotians to date? To put this system into place.
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, member opposite, the member for Kings West, for those questions. And basically, they revolve around the program called the NSHIS, or the Nova Scotia Health Information System, and what we're trying to do to make sure that all parts of the province are connected with the same type of programming, so that there can be sharing of information from one district health authority to the other, from one clinic to another, from one hospital to another. I can say that we're currently working and completing the client registry component of it. We're still expanding the primary health care component of it, which is the interconnection of clinics and doctors' offices. We are currently only at about 30% there. So we're still trying to expand that to a place where all doctors' offices and those types of facilities have access to it. We continue to work on the financial systems and the financial reporting systems for DHAs, make sure that they have the correct payroll systems and HR systems and those types of things within their accounting, things that they can share information back and forth with the Department of Health as well. We also want to expand to a pharma care program, which is a component of this as well. We could talk about PACS and then the information sharing of diagnostics, X-ray, MRI, and CT scans and those types of products that is complete to about, I think it's 91% of the whole province. There's only like two or three. I think there's only like 2 or 3 machines that can't be connected apparently. So we've done some strides, but and largely in part to the sharing and the contribution of Canada Health Infoways, which has been a funding partner with us through the auspices of the federal government. And many of these programs and systems are extremely expensive due to their connectability and the wiring and the technology that is required for them. Things that I do want to see in the near future is, of course, the expansion of that primary health care capacity and making sure that our clinics and areas are duly served by it, and also to make sure that the patient health record is clearly available to all sections of the province. So if you have a person from Yarmouth who gets sick in Kentville, that patient's information is available to the doctors for treatment. We also have the health surveillance system that is under design, which is a great component of the system. We also have a couple of things like the OR scheduling program, which would help us out with our wait times. And the unfortunate part there is that again, a complicated piece that all district health authorities must sign on, and ultimately another expensive program. But we continue to work with it. But all districts at this point are all interoperable. They are all able to share their information from one district to another, and we'll continue to expand that system in the near term.
Thank you. The honourable member for Kings West.
Kind of brings me again back to the wait table, the round table on wait times, which again I'm familiar with a couple of the doctors at the Valley Regional Hospital, where they have seen very little change over the past 2 years. For example, in orthopedics, it is still a 9-10 months wait. We also, of course, have patients that come from the South Shore up to Valley Regional for their surgeries, for joint replacement. In terms of the availability in other parts of the province and that being online, is that up to to doctors to post their list when you say it's probably not as up to speed as you would like, because perhaps there can be more movement of patients from one part of the province to the other. Valley Regional and the doctors that performing surgeries there certainly have a lot of pressure on them to try and reduce that 9-10 month wait time for whether it's a hip or a knee or other joint replacement. And if that list is available to, let's say, a patient in the Valley or on the South Shore, that in Truro, New Glasgow, where similar surgeries are done, is that posted and available, and the family doctor can help them in terms of making a decision about another location where they could go. I know that may not always be preferable for a family, but we know that it's a much shorter time in hospital now before these patients do get back home. So long hospital stays and having family around certainly not as critical a piece. And I'm just wondering where that list, its availability, its on-the-ground significance for patients making those kinds of decisions. Where is this at this particular stage? I remember the day of the announcement. I was at the Valley Regional. There was a lot of fanfare around this particular announcement. I'm just wondering, in reality, how is it working? Is it making a difference to patients in Nova Scotia?
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and through you to the honourable member from Kings West. The information that he refers to is, of course, our wait time website that is available to all Nova Scotians off our main website, where people can go and look at different regions. I believe it's broken down by regions, by hospital, also by the type of surgery, the type of service that they're requiring, and on there we can find just a whole list of different services that can be done, from orthopedics to diagnostic testing to cancer to I believe there's probably 10 or 20 different lists that you can pull down, so that a patient in conjunction with their family physician, that they can make a decision on where to put their name in for any type of surgery. Going back to the primary health care service, we were talking about the interoperability or the connection of doctors' offices to this main health system. Of course, not all doctors' offices are connected yet. As we're setting up new primary care clinics, we're making sure that information is there. I can take, for instance, the one that we have in Yarmouth, and the new clinic, the IMG clinic that we have there. They have the newest technology. They have wireless tablet PCs, and it's quite interesting that when they do their diagnosis and do a request for pharmaceutical, or do that pharmacare piece, is that they can bring down and they can have the best information available to them right there on the machine of what kind of dosages and the kinds of pharmaceuticals that should be prescribed for those patients. Also, that information can be sent quickly to the pharmacy. So I was speaking with actually one of the pharmacists, a friend of mine, and she said she was more than excited when she got the first printout from the system that she could actually read it. So it was as we're talking about safety and in pharmaceuticals and the correct dosages, I think this is a leap ahead. But the main piece that you're referring to is the wait times website that is held just to click off on the left side, on the right-hand side of the Department of Health website.
Thank you. The honourable member for Kings West.
Before I leave the area of electronic medical records and so on, and of course the important piece here is the provincial system that in time will be in place. I was wondering if we could have at least a bit of a ballpark figure on what it has cost to date to put this into place. I know that we roared ahead at first, and then we had some problems with the system. I'm just wondering what it has cost Nova Scotians to put the system in place.
Thank you. The honourable member, the Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I don't have that number right with me, but I will endeavour to have that listing to the member opposite, and we'll try to have a little bit of listing what the program or what IT solution it is, and maybe what kind of costing went along with it. This has been happening over the last number of years as we go on, so it will be over a number of budget years to show, and of course we'll show this year what kind of funding is available to implement these kinds of systems.
Thank you. The honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Just to get to perhaps in my remaining time, and to look a little bit more at some of the local questions, or maybe I still have quite a bit of time. I'm not sure. Anyway, in my riding currently, we certainly have, as in other parts of the province, doctor shortages. The community of Berwick, of course, lost 2 doctors, as we know. By now, just in a very short time, and within a 1-month span. They had almost recruited 1 doctor who was certainly going to be sponsored, and a local doctor would act as a mentor, had passed their clinical assessment program, but for some reason the district health lost this doctor from coming to the area. And I'm just wondering again where the department is with assisting small communities like Berwick to get their complement of doctors up to speed.
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Health.
Basically, the physician services brand.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And recruitment, of course, has been a challenge over the last number of years to make sure that we have the physicians in the areas that we need them. The ironic part here in the province is that we have probably the second highest physician to population ratio in Canada, yet they are mostly focused here in HRM and near some other centres. So we talk about Berwick and other rural areas where we're having a little more of a challenge to get the physicians to locate there. Of course, we have a recruitment officer in the Department of Health whose sole purpose is to continue to work with areas who are looking for physicians to make sure that they are aware of the availability. Also working with physician services within the department to make sure that the correct remuneration packages are available to them, depending on whether they want to be collaborative or work alone, fee for service, those types of things. But we also try to treat every part of the province fairly and as equitably as possible. So there's no one area over another. We also find that within each district, at this point, each council through the municipalities, through the district health authorities, through different organizations have different types of incentive packages as well that we try to work with and deal with when physicians are interested in coming to this province. So it is still a challenge to make sure that we have physicians coming to our province. Yet I think the trick here will be to continue to work with the School of Medicine at Dalhousie to make sure that we can take students who are interested in medicine from our areas, provide them with the mechanisms to go through school and hopefully entice them to come back to their home communities. I know a lot of us through this chamber who had the opportunity to attend university, in a lot of cases we had to go away to do university, yet something brought us back home. And we hope that kind of rural feeling will bring a lot of our students back to our area. So we need to have better mechanisms and continue to work on that to make sure that we have physicians in our rural areas.
Thank you. The honourable member for Kingsworth.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Minister for that response, and also reiterating for the second time not just the importance of getting doctors in the rural areas of Nova Scotia, but certainly pointing to one of the more successful areas of recruitment, and that is actually having students from rural areas who are in med school and who would go back to rural areas. He's absolutely correct on that. In fact, I was handed just recently a research paper done by a medical student at Dalhousie, and he looked at other provinces and what they deemed to be the most successful means to get people to come to rural areas. And one of the most successful areas that he had documented, in fact, was Northern Ontario. And if we think of Northern Ontario with its isolated community,